Every day a new day, move things, do things like my life a movie, hey. Every day new day, move things, do things like my life a movie, hey. Every day a new day, move things, do things like my life a movie, hey. Every day new day, move things, do things like my life a movie, hey.
Hello. Welcome everybody to episode 4 of the Smoke Tingz podcast, All Smoke No Chaser. We are back in the building right here at Smoke Tingz, 1705 North Capitol Street. We got all the goodies for you. You guys know what it is already. Follow us at Smoke Tingz. We have a couple of very special guests in the building today. We're going to be talking about psychedelics, cannabis, and hopefully a lot of sex that comes with that.
Ew.
Yeah. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We have them too, and Eddie, and of course, Jaina here. Rob is going to check in with us later on. But I'm going to let these ladies introduce themselves. My name is Ibu Tal, as you know. I'm black, I'm African, I'm a Virgo. At Ibu Tal on IG.
Let them introduce themselves as code word for, I don't know how to pronounce their names, but so I'll just start because I have the most difficult name.
You go.
My name's Ianessa Humbert.
Ianessa.
They heard me when I said it.
No, because they don't hear you, though.
Like Ian and Vanessa.
There you go.
Ianessa.
Together.
Yeah, it's like I-A-N, Ian.
That's not hard.
It's not.
Ianessa.
You would think, eh? You would think. Obviously, I'm Canadian because I just busted out with the A.
Wow.
Hey.
Yes. And my background is in speech pathology. I have an undergrad, master's, and PhD in speech pathology. My area of expertise is swallowing and swallowing disorders. I help people for decades with swallowing disorders, and recently started working with my best friend, Reba, who's a sexologist, about swallowing related to sex and sexuality.
We love it.
That's
We love it.
We love bringing people over to the dark side.
Come
light
on
side.
over, pun intended.
That's what I'm here for.
We are doing the Lord's work. I'm Reba. I go by Reba the Diva. I am the CEO and founder of Sexpert Consultants. We teach pleasure-positive sex education workshops in DC and beyond, online and literally internationally. I just did a class in London a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
Anyway, I am a sexologist, but I also was part of the team that helped legalize recreational cannabis here in the district. Initiative 71, I delivered to the election board. So super happy to be in a space like this because we worked really hard to be able to have spaces like this where Black people won't get arrested and we can have our medicine and smoke our weed and have a good time. So.
Absolutely. And where can they find y'all on social media?
Oh, I'm on social, on all things social at Reba the Diva. Reba, T-H-E, Diva.
And mine is IANESSAHUMBERT, Ianessa Humbert.
Here we go. So these are our guests. Jane, Dr. Jane.
Hey. Dr. Jane, if you're nasty.
Yes.
I ain't on y'all level. Okay. Jane_Dell, you already know.
And it's me, your boy Eddie B, at Showtime.13. Mr. Think Whatever You Want.
All right. So on that note, we're going to jump right into it. Obviously, we talked about our subject matter for the night, which is psychedelics, cannabis, and sex, and all things that come with that. So I've known these two ladies for, I guess, a little bit over a year now. Mm-hmm. And they've been having talks around the city, around the country, around the world about this subject. So I wanted to get them on to talk about it and kind of just educate people. That's part of our mission statement here, if you will, at Smoke Tingz, just to educate people on cannabis and psychedelics, what they do, what they don't do, what they can enhance, what they can't enhance. So that's why y'all are here. So I'm gonna let y'all just, talk about it, and we're gonna chime in and ask questions. The live is on right now. Shout out to everybody on live. If you have any questions, definitely type them in there and we'll try to get it in. So yeah, ladies, what do we need to know about psychedelics and, cannabis and how it relates to sex in a positive, negative, whatever way?
Ooh,
Let's start with a question. Let's start with the question that we talked about. So Reba and I have a group on Instagram called Gulp Group, GULP.GROUP. And Gulp stands for Gaining Understanding About Lovemaking and Physiology. And so our very first YouTube show was on sex and cannabis. And we had a whole segment talking about sex and cannabis. The very first thing we asked the audience members in a live poll was, do you find sexual activity more arousing, more exciting when you are high versus when you're...
I'm sorry.
No, I want to know what they say too.
When you're high versus when you're not high. So I figured by show of hands, if you don't mind participating, do you find that sexual activity is more arousing, more exciting, etc., when you're high? Yes or no?
The person who don't smoke weed, of course, is going to have to buy her
You always have a sham group in science. There's always a sham group. Okay? A sham group.
I don't smoke, so I wouldn't be able to answer to that.
What do you do? Any mind-altering activities?
Besides liquor?
Alcohol. Yeah, alcohol.
Okay, so yeah.
Wait,
Okay.
you don't? Are you having sex with people who have cannabis? Who use cannabis?
I don't know what you asking me, ma'am.
Are you having sex with people who get high? Do they get high? The people who you have sex with?
Not before.
You sure?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't. You know,
Well, because that's also like data, right? If you notice that your partners perform better when they're under the influence of cannabis, then you would be able to tell us yes or no.
I don't smoke, so most of the people that I date do smoke.
Okay.
But recently, I've been entertaining people who don't smoke.
Oh.
But I mean, I guess it would make. I wouldn't know what difference it would make for them.
You should find out.
But for you,
should.
but for you
But
is
for
what
you,
she said.
yeah.
But you've
Yeah, so if you're receiving from a man that is,
Hi.
Well, I don't want him to have cotton mouth if he eating the
better
box.
know.
but he might
that's
not.
not the only
That's
thing.
not. Yeah.
You definitely don't want him to have a green out or a stoner boner.
Yeah.
What's
What
the
the
green
hell's a
out?
stoner boner?
Go for it.
No,
for it.
I haven't heard green out. I haven't heard green out before. Yes.
So if a man has had too much weed, he can have what we call a stoner boner or green out, which means he can't get hot. He can't get high.
He can't get up.
He can't get this head high, although this head is way high.
Like
right?
whiskey dick.
Yeah. Although I don't know, whiskey dick is a little different. Whiskey dick is a little different. Some people for whiskey dick, right? The erection lasts a long time, but they don't reach orgasm.
Right.
That's perfect.
That's great. That's not what we're talking
No one's
about here.
Finally, the women get to catch up in the orgasm gap.
That's how I'm about to say whiskey ain't there do me wrong. You hear me?
Whiskey dick.
Never
But
done us wrong.
That's wrong.
Whiskey dick is amazing, but green out. So high dick is not right. It's like it gets kind of
It's low dick.
Yeah,
It's
like
low
it's like you're so high, like you can't even get hard.
High dick,
Right.
how you
I mean, but
different
even
sensations.
alcohol does that too. If you get too drunk,
Yeah, sure,
then it's
exactly,
so you got to find that happy medium,
It's
or
a liquid limp.
Exactly.
it's a liquid limp for sure.
Nah.
Yeah.
that high situation, it sends different feelings through your body, man.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, what does that feel
What is
like?
that feeling? No, we asking y'all
No.
first.
I just want to have a real like experiential conversation about what it feels like, and then I can tell you like the science behind that. right?
Okay.
So I'm curious to know because everybody's brain works
Absolutely.
differently, right?
And bodies.
Exactly, because our brains work. You know, the biggest sexual organ in your body is your brain.
Between your ears, not between your legs, people.
Exactly. So if your brain is the biggest sexual organ in your body, and we're talking about cannabis, which is altering the way that your brain thinks, it's altering the chemistry of your brain. You want me to talking to Mike? That's what I hear you saying. Okay, I got you. Okay, so if it's altering the chemistry of your brain, then you're going to experience things differently, right? And so your brain is different from everybody else's brain in this room. So I'm just asking everybody who indulges in cannabis, what does that experience feel like in your body?
You wanna
And
go
then
first,
tell me
Eddie?
how it feels in your brain, and I'll tell you the difference.
All right. You want to go first, Eddie, or should I?
Man, I'll go first.
All right.
It's probably the best feeling ever for me. Because it's like, man, I'm reaching new heights every time, you know, and I'm making sure that the partner is also getting where she needs to be. And it's kind of like times 10. So, you know, it's just one of them experiences where it's like, yeah.
So you've had the best sex in your life high.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, probably off them shrooms.
Ooh, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
I want to talk about cannabis first, but that's a totally different experience.
It is.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. Now, for sure, like with cannabis, just like with anything related to cannabis, like it enhances that experience times 10. Like Eddie said, like Doritos taste like they're from planet Mars. like any food. So food and sex are also related. So it's, you know, it gets your endorphins up, or whichever your sexual chemistry stuff is.
Food and sex are the two most sensual things you can do. Like,
so we should eat and smoke and have sex at the same time.
And a sexologist.
And a sexologist who married a chef. So like it is very much.
Get up to that.
It's like a sensual.
Best of all worlds.
Oh yeah, like.
I know they indulging, right? Oh man, it's experimenting.
But yeah, everything is just so much. Everything just when you're not too high, but high on cannabis and having sex, like it's just all the sensations are just so much more heightened. Mm-hmm. Like it's crazy.
Have you guys ever tried cannabis on your bodies, like topically?
No,
I have.
You eating weed?
No, it's cream.
On your body, it's like a cream or oil.
Yeah, it's
They
cream.
make weed oil for your pussy, sis.
Ooh.
What?
Yeah, and it actually feels really. I'm gonna tell you
Hold
something.
on.
Yeah.
Wait a damn minute.
Yes.
Sit back.
BV is real.
Sit back.
Okay, it is real. You're right. And things that cause BV are things that disrupt our pH balance, right? So let's nerd out for a second.
Okay.
Our pH balance is, when it's healthy, it's between a 3.5 and a 4.5, which is pretty acidic, right? If you think about it, water is a 7. Semen is between a 7 and an 8. Orange juice is closer to our pH balance, right? So when we introduce foreign things that disrupt that pH balance, right? That's what causes bacterial vaginosis, yeast infections, things like that. What I'm saying is cannabis is not a pH disruptor.
So are you putting it on your coochie or in your coochie?
Putting it on the clitoris, not inside. On the clitoris, right on the little nub on the outside.
But do we understand? Do we understand why the clitoris needs to be?
It's the party starter.
It's
It's got to be stimulated.
It's the party starter.
And like it's about blood flow. So like penises are all about blood flow, right? And clitorises are all about blood flow too. And cannabis, when it's applied topically, helps with there's this term called vasodilation, which is when it helps our blood vessels get bigger and our blood can flow faster, right? And so cannabis helps open those blood vessels and helps make that arousal happen, right? And so when we put it on our clitorises, 20 minutes, it's like a marinade, right? You gotta let it marinate. There's one I really like from a company called Foria, Foria, Foria.
I've heard of them.
It's an arousal oil, and this one is actually CBD. It's an arousal oil, and it's CBD. It's not
that. That's
you
what
do.
you
It's
for
the
my
thing.
birthday.
I know. We're gonna tell you. Gonna tell us about it too. But seriously, it helps with like kind of just waking the clitoral cluster up. It doesn't get you high. It's not getting your pussy high, but it does.
It is getting
Speak
that
for
pussy.
yourself.
Okay, all right, maybe it is getting your pussy high, right?
That pussy high for sure.
But it feels good. Just like you said, being high and having sex feels like real, like amazing all over your body. It's heightened sensations. The same is true when we use it topically, especially for people with clitorises.
So is it like a KY jelly type of situation?
It's,
No, I mean,
it's
like
a
far
spray.
It's
It's
a-
just a
it's a spray.
A
spray.
little oil.
Yeah, it's like a light oil. Yeah. And you can spray it anywhere,
That's
but really,
interesting.
it's very, it's quite stimulating.
And you can use it on the nipples, on the clitoris.
That would be a waste of funds. Just putting it out there in the streets for what it's
Speak for
worth.
yourself.
So
I have little titties, and little titties. I don't know. There's something a little special about these little titties, right? Because they're really sensitive, and so using cannabis arousal oil on my nipples makes them tingle, and it feels amazing.
So you say you got it for your birthday?
I got it for her.
For my birthday.
Yeah. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And she said, explain.
It was our
Let her
first.
know.
It was our first gift. It was my first gift to you.
Yeah.
Our first time meeting in person. But
So how was the first time?
Yeah, of course.
you liked it?
Yeah, I love it.
Like, what does it do? Like, how does it make your body
well,
feel?
so if everybody knows about the orgasm gap is for every 100 cisgendered heterosexual couples who have sex, the man will have an orgasm about 90% of the time. They won't have an orgasm about 65% of the time. And the anatomical reason is that in order for you to climax, your genitals need to be engorged with blood, and you can fill a penis faster than the small clitoris, right? And so what it does, it's sort of like preloads. Like before you go to a party, you might have a drink or two before, right? You preload before,
that
right?
Pre-game,
We're
yeah.
preloading.
I feel very
Pre-rolling,
Canadian right now.
All of it.
Yeah. So basically, you just heighten that area in advance, and it lasts during the sexual act as well, which is nice.
I love that.
Wow.
All right.
So it's
Well,
just various ways, and if you're high while using that, so you have your central nervous system
Working.
that's high, plus your peripheral nervous system
Wow, that's
stimulated.
growing, that's
It's like
going.
all the whole nervous system's involved.
Wow.
So can we talk about why the brain does what it does on cannabis? Like,
Yes.
especially when it comes to sex.
Of course.
Yeah,
That's why
tell
we're here.
me. I've been wondering.
So here's how the brain works during sex, right? We have two systems in our brains. We have our sexual inhibition system and our sexual excitation system. Inhibition system is like the brakes. Skirt is all the reasons why you shouldn't be sexual, right? So like, you're in the middle of something, you smell something bad and your dick goes soft, that's your brake. Skirt, okay? Then you have your excitation system, which is your gas pedal, right? So your accelerator, right? And so, seeing a woman in a nice like lingerie outfit, or like, her saying sexual things to you. These can be your gas pedals, right? And at the end of the day, the way that our bodies work is we perceive gas and we perceive brakes when it comes to sexual stimuli, right? And so for a lot of us, especially for women, if we are worried about what's going on at work or in our relationship or with the kids or the laundry or the groceries or whatever, again, because the brain is our biggest sexual organ and all these brakes are being pressed, we're not here for that shit, right? But cannabis can help kind of alleviate the pressure on the brakes, right? And kind of make your gas pedal a little bit more sensitive. Right. So in places where maybe when you're not high or you haven't used cannabis topically, it's harder for you to become aroused. Right. When you use cannabis topically or you are high, your brakes are less likely to be depressed and your gas is more likely, because our sensations are heightened.
Yeah.
Right. Our gas is more likely to be able to turn on so we can get to where we need to go. And that's pleasure.
So is it only if you use cannabis topically or
You
when
know
you
what?
smoke it?
So if you use cannabis topically, let's talk about the difference between THC and CBD real quick,
Yeah,
right? Y'all know the difference?
I do.
I'm familiar.
CBD is, it's all the same flower.
Yeah.
It's just CBD has a way less percentage of THC in it than actual cannabis does.
Okay, so
There's actually 0.01.
So the cannabis plant is made of hundreds of cannabinoids.
Right.
THC and CBD are just two of them, but they're the primary two that the US government gives a fuck about, right? CBD is legal. THC is not, right? So if we were to grow a cannabis plant that has less than 0.3%, 0.03%
Right.
of THC, that is a hemp plant, which makes it a CBD plant, right? When it has more than 0.03% THC, it is now a THC plant. That is a cannabis plant. It's weed, it's marijuana. It's all the same plant, right? But it's how we grow it.
Right.
Now, THC, why is that a thing? THC is the psychoactive part of cannabis, right? CBD is the part that affects our bodies. So if we think about those two in like a spectrum, right? THC is what makes us high and CBD is what relaxes us, And together, they create the entourage effect with all the other cannabinoids that makes our endocannabinoid system. I'm about to get really nerdy with y'all. We're about to get nerdy.
We're with you.
Okay. So in the 1990s, the same year that the medical community widely publicized the clitoris for the first time, we discovered the endocannabinoid system. Whether you smoke weed or not, you included, you have an endocannabinoid system. There are cannabinoids running through your body right now, right? When we ingest cannabis and use it...
As Eddie passes her the weed.
When we ingest cannabis and use cannabis topically, we are serving to regulate our endocannabinoid system. Sometimes we dysregulate it in that way too, which is why, you get foggy, you might oversleep. These are all signs of dysregulation of your endocannabinoid system, right? Cannabis can help regulate our endocannabinoid system, but we have to figure out what we need, right? So it's figuring out your dose in terms of how much THC does your body need and how much CBD does your body need. Now, you know that because the way that cannabis is produced and regulated on the East Coast, there really is no way for us to determine how much CBD and THC a person is ingesting, really, right? There's no testing facilities that we can reliably point to and say, this is it, right? Not locally. California, yes. Colorado, all the places where it's been recreationally legal for a while, right? But you have to figure out what is that balance for you? Some people, too much THC, your dick is not gonna get hard, it's not gonna work. We're not doing it, I'm gonna be dead to the bed, right? But enough CBD could maybe take your mind off of the back pains that you've been experiencing since you were in your 20s, or the PTSD that you've been suffering since you were in the Army, right? Like, these are all of the ways that cannabis can help us, but we're so worried about getting high.
Nah, I use it for my back.
Stupid. Now my back and my ankle.
Oh, definitely.
That's what his medical marijuana card says.
Exactly.
My back and my ankle.
Chronic pain.
Yeah, chronic back pains,
Nah, but it's like you said, like in certain places it's legal or illegal or gray area, whatever. But obviously with cannabis and psilocybin, which is mushrooms, the psychedelics, they have, outside of just getting high, they have other benefits. And I think a lot of people don't know that, or are just scared, or I think us in the Black community, we have a stigma about just getting high from whether it's from the crack era or heroin back in the day. Like, people just, when you say they think you're a junkie.
Yeah. I get high every day. I run an amazing business. It's very successful. I'm high right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
Enjoy.
Me too.
The thing is, cannabis helps me treat my anxiety. And I didn't know I had anxiety. I found out I had anxiety maybe like 10 or 15 years after I started using weed to help me. Wow. You know what I mean?
Until you started feeling it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, this is ancestral medicine, y'all.
It is.
Yeah.
This is what our ancestors used. This is what indigenous people have used for centuries, that has been criminalized and gate kept away from us. So.
For sure. Well, everybody needs to smoke some weed and have sex, I guess, or what was the topical?
Oh, Euphoria. It's called Awaken Arousal Oil. It's real good. I love it.
Ladies, take your notepads out.
Awaken. You can go to rebabthediva.com/phoria.
Oh, there you go.
And you'll get a 10% discount. You're welcome.
Nice.
So hold on, do you make it?
No, I don't. I'm just an ambassador.
Oh, you're an ambassador.
I don't sell it.
Got it. Check cleared.
I just love it a lot. And I'm like, give me free shit and I'll tell everybody about what you do.
I understand.
Sounds like a win-win situation to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, well, I want to go back to, because you asked her if she has been with anybody that was smoking cannabis or does cannabis and, had sex with them. And does it matter if, like, both people are, or if one person doesn't know or does know, whatever? Like, I'm assuming the experience is going to be completely different for her than for me as a person that was smoking or, took an edible or whatever?
Well, ultimately, each person has their own experience in any interaction. If you're both sharing an ice cream sundae, it's the same food, but you're having your taste experience and that person is having theirs. If it's both pleasurable, because one person is high and the other person isn't, then everybody wins, right? And I just think ultimately that's where communication comes in.
Right.
If you are unable to express your desires to whoever your partner is about anything, cannabis or not, then you're probably in a situation where you're not having the best experience together that you can have. So hopefully cannabis is a sort of a greasing the wheels to be able to talk about things, and that anxiety associated with saying, this is what I like that you do, this is what I don't like. Even if you never said and you tolerated it for a year, this is the time to say it. I really actually never liked that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But maybe that'll help you grease the wheels to begin the communication. I actually think that really good communication surrounding sex and sexuality can be as effective as cannabis, because cannabis just makes you forget about sometimes the things that you haven't talked about. Like you just go for it. But you can talk about it and actually perhaps not even need some of those things to help you just get through the gate quickly, right? Sometimes cannabis can be a vice for poor communication around sex.
That makes sense.
Yes.
All right.
I see it.
I mean, there's a lot of information to absorb and digest for sure. But no, it's all definitely helpful information. I think a lot of our viewers, or most of them anyway, are very familiar with cannabis, whether they smoke or not, just being around the world. But one thing that hasn't, I think within the past maybe year and a half, people have explored more into it, is the mushrooms, the psilocybin. They're coming off chocolates, the flour, capsules. They're making gummies now out of it, coffee, everything. This is the past year and a half is it's insane. In this store outside of the cannabis flower, that is the number one seller, period. And all races, ages, everybody is on mushrooms right now, for whatever reason, and it takes you different places depending on, like you said, your body, your mentality, what's going on in your mind. But as it relates to sex, which I have not yet been on mushrooms and indulged.
As everyone collectively sighs.
Eddie, what do you think? What are your thoughts on it?
Man, it just was a out of body experience kind of thing. And it's when it's going down with the right person, it just feels like boom. It was just like a volcano explosion, and just, it didn't matter. I was somewhere, she was somewhere, and we just went somewhere.
Intergalactic.
That's the word.
Planetary.
And listen, it just, it opens your mind. It lets you see something further than what you were already visioning. So, that's why I, started to indulge. But, everybody's going to have a different experience, and I just hope they all have one like I had, because I know how.
Can I ask you, do you think that relationships would be better if people had the difficult conversations with shrooms as opposed to
that would
dry?
Definitely that would definitely make you have the conversations, because you now are thinking, a little further ahead, and you want to know exactly what they are thinking. So y'all going back and forth. So you're going to ask the questions freely because you're open. You know what I'm saying? And, just be ready.
So one thing I've noticed in my work is that, especially heterosexual men are conditioned and socialized to not really use their words to talk about their emotions, right? One of my favorite sex therapists, her name is Esther Perel. Esther Perel, she's French, and she talks a lot about how men are socialized to use their bodies, like, and physicality to communicate, whereas women are socialized to use our words, right? So we want you to talk about your feelings, and you want us to rub your back, right? And so, no, seriously, that's what it is, right? Yes, and so, in one thing that I've learned about using mushrooms is mushrooms allows people who have a hard time using their words to express their emotions. It helps unlock a lot of doors for those folks, right? And as a woman, I can say, like, we talk a lot, but it's not easy for us to talk about our feelings. Like, we can talk about what that person is feeling, what I feel about that thing over there, but like how I feel about you in this moment is hard. It's hard. We're humans, right? And it's hard for all humans to have these conversations. And so when we use mushrooms, I think it makes us less inhibited, right? And it takes us to places in our minds where we're able to kind of explore freely and safely if we are in a space mentally where we can receive that.
Yeah, you gotta be in the same space.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's what I love about mushrooms, is this ability to, like, connect in spaces where you typically wouldn't, right? Like, you take a bunch of mushrooms with your boys, y'all gonna be talking all motherfucking night and reminiscing and, like, having a good time, because and that's not
tripping.
Exactly.
Or everybody just be in their own zone, having their own
time.
Yes.
But own reflect. But what when do you ever really sit down with your feelings and your, like, perspectives and reflect on how you feel? Right? Mushrooms helps us do that. Mushrooms helps us with depression, because when we unpack all of that compressed, suppressed emotion, we are free, right? Our minds are free. Our bodies are free because we're not worried. We don't hold that trauma inside of us. So when I said this was ancestral medicine, I meant it. Like, this is how we free ourselves. And so I work in a lab where we grow mushrooms, we make mushroom things, and, like, I have learned so much about myself from doing mushrooms, but also about people and how our bodies react to this just by doing the work that I'm doing. So no, I think radical drug use is a really great way to really get in touch with yourself. Yeah.
I think with the what you were just saying, as far as it opens you up mentally into, I've watched like 1,000 mushroom documentaries ever since we opened up this shop. But one thing I did learn was that outside of that, they say we use 8% of our brain, and mushrooms are like a connector of.
Can we talk about that when you're done, please?
Yes, absolutely. Mushrooms are almost like a connector of all these other neurons and brain pathways that we don't use on a daily basis. And that's why it's always hard for me to tell people how you feel when you're on mushrooms, because it's not like a weed high. Like, it's completely different. And some people think, oh, I'm gonna run down the street butt naked. It's not at all gonna make you do that. Like, you are almost your best self almost your best self on much, because you just you analyze things and think about things so much deeper, or even just the feeling and the ambiance around you, the lights, these colors, whatever, is just gonna be so much more pronounced. And that's what I like about it. It just takes you somewhere that you don't think the human brain could have taken you awake. Yeah. Yeah, like it's crazy.
I just want to nerd out real quick. My neuroscience background won't let that pass. I don't know who they is when people say, but that is like a massive thing that people say is so false. You're using your brain is 100% on. Is it the focal part of every activity every time? No. But there's no dead part of your brain. That's what we call stroke. That's what we call traumatic brain injury. That's what we call, Alzheimer's disease. In fact, in studies where they take monkeys and they cut one finger off, the part of the brain dedicated to this finger just gets taken over by this part, the part of the brain that they just subsumes a different thing. Deaf people, they use their hearing parts for vision. There's no dead part of your brain. The difference with what these things are doing is they're allowing these parts of your brain to be center stage more regularly, right? So these things get to be heightened. They don't get inhibited. Your cortex's job is to inhibit your stupid little reflexes, impulses, so we're not just a bunch of toddlers running around doing things, right? Our adult brain is supposed to have executive function to stop that. And what shrooms and cannabis can help us do is to use different parts of our brain differently to sort of reveal parts of ourselves that we weren't paying attention to before. Right. So you're absolutely right about what you're expressing, but it's not that now we're using more, it's that we're letting that come to the forefront more, right? Gotcha. We're not inhibiting it with all the coping strategies we've picked up through our childhood to just not have to face something or not have to deal with something.
Right.
The paradox, though, about mushrooms and cannabis, I think, is that we believe that we can only reach these places in our minds with mushrooms.
Okay.
Right? And that's not the case. Just because this was the way that you found yourself in that space, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only way to access that space. And so when we start to put too much trust in cannabis and mushrooms to get us into those places in our minds that we can unlock for ourselves, that's when we become a little bit overly dependent, right? And codependent on the drugs to get us to those places. What I've been finding is when I can try to find those spaces that were unlocked for me with the mushrooms, especially without the mushrooms, then I'm a little bit closer to kind of being a little bit more enlightened.
So can we go back to sex real quick? I was just gonna say,
yes.
All the experiences that you guys are talking about, whether it be sort of an introspective thing, journaling during or right after, you get to stay where you left off. And then you get to go beyond that. So read that again when you are no longer high and be like, oh, shit. That's what I thought. Now it's in your conscious non-drug state. So when you go back in, you can go a little deeper because that's already a part of your higher self in a sober space. And the other thing that I was going to say is the same thing when you've had sex with somebody and it was amazing, drugged or not, talk about that. Have some aftercare. Talk about what that amazing experience was. Why y'all looking at each other? We're going to talk after tonight. I know what that moment was.
I just want to make a statement that I don't know what this woman is talking about. Okay.
Aftercare is when you guys talk about what just happened in the sexual experience. And it requires a level of vulnerability that not everybody has. Some people just like wipe off and leave. And I'm suggesting that in a relationship that matters to you,
not wipe off and leave.
Yeah. Or not even that. Sometimes just escape. Exactly. Right. Wash and run.
Aftercare.
But aftercare is really a conversation. Yeah, it's a conversation about what just happened, the experience you had, etc. And if you're willing to do that, you can start where you left off and summit from there, as opposed to always going back, redoing the same thing you always did.
Right.
But can I say that a valid aftercare question is not, how many times did I make you orgasm, baby? Because the thing is, if you gotta ask,
everyone doesn't come loud and strong.
Yeah.
Okay?
No. I'm saying if you have to ask about how many times, this is a like pat on the back, like I did this thing, right? As long as you know that there's actually pretty problematic. I'm gonna tell you why.
It's just energy. We just flowing. You'll feel it.
But that's what I'm saying. If it's just energy, then it doesn't matter how many times.
It doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know what you're saying. So
that's
don't ask that question.
So
you telling the fellas don't ask that.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Don't ask how many times you came. Ask if it was pleasurable for you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But why even ask?
Or just lay there and
because
just hold her and
know,
shit.
You want to know.
What if you don't like my answer?
That's fine. Good.
It's communication. We're going to learn from it.
And we need to talk about it.
Exactly.
Don't ask me what grade you getting on this report card, because it might be an F.
I mean, that's...
What's wrong with being honest about the fact that maybe there's some room for improvement? I think they're asking because it may have been, that age-old Hollywood question, was it as good for you as it was for me? It's because they actually want to know, because
I don't think people want to know.
I do think some people, men or women, want to know whether it was good. Just like a meal, you cook for somebody's like, hey, was that good? Like, because you guys are interacting in something.
But
actually,
just like,
I don't think they're asking because they don't want to know.
But you don't assume, when you ask that question, most likely you're not thinking that the person's going to say, no, that was horrible for me.
Exactly. But they're asking because they want to know. And you don't have to say it's horrible. You can say that. But I would also suggest that you be honest about it. Say, well, it wasn't as good for me as you. Well, why? Well, this was, and describe what. I think it's okay if you want. Unless you decide it doesn't matter because I'm never touching you again, and I don't want to hurt. I don't want to hurt you. That's one thing. But if you're like, actually, I really like you, and I want this to happen again. Let's make it more successful. Conversation has to happen.
I like to use compliment sandwiches.
Compliment sandwiches. Okay.
So I'll say, I really like the way you kiss me. Maybe it would be helpful for you to take my How to Eat Cake Cunnilingus class.
True.
But I really love the way you touch my body afterwards.
So compliment sandwich is basically positive, negative, positive. Exactly. It's just basically like envelop it in positive casing so that the candy-coated shell is sweet, even though the center isn't perhaps.
So that it doesn't destroy the man's confidence.
But you know what? Also, it can be the reverse. Like women should be asking too.
Absolutely.
Right? Women should be saying, how was that? The assumption is that it was the best pussy you ever had just because you orgasm. But that's not the case. Maybe you had to go think about a previous person to get through the moment. We don't know.
Shit, not fucking with me.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because women like to brag too, right? I just said, how many orgasms is a badge, right? So that's problematic. But we like to brag. We like to brag too, right?
What do y'all brag about?
Well, how long it took y'all? If you came in 5 seconds, then the pussy bombed, dog. Okay,
but also that's very that's not exciting. Please don't think that you.
All I gotta do is 5 minutes.
No. What I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, okay, I know. I'm not saying that. I'm not. I take it back. I take it back.
Be clear.
I take it back. Okay, no.
You're taking notes out there.
What the things that we brag about are how good it was for y'all, right? And so I want to ask a question that women don't actually know the answer to, and I want to know if it's true, okay? And this is a thing that I have learned in my practice, and I just want to know from people who actually have penises if this is true, okay?
Yes.
Y'all ready?
Shoot.
Okay. Is there a difference between when you ejaculate or you come and an orgasm? Oh, absolutely in the back.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I've actually never thought about that until you just asked that. But I understand what you mean. Yes. Like ejaculating is just like, all right, this was just a functional, let me get it out the way and please myself. I'm good. When you have I guess as a man have a real org, like it has to be, at least for me, it has to be someone like you're really connected to. And either it can be mental, physical, whatever way, or all of the above. But yeah, that is a completely different experience from let's say a one night stand or something like that. Yeah, for sure.
Ready?
Yeah, it most definitely is. I really don't, like Ibu just said, I guess when she asked the question, it's like, wow. I felt it, I didn't correlate it differently. Like it just was a good feeling, and it was enjoyable. So, now it's something to look forward to, and pay attention to more.
And I think when we just come and it's not somebody that we had a quote unquote orgasm with, it's like, all right, this is done, I'm gone.
Yeah.
But if it was like we had an orgasm, somebody that we cared about, no, we're laying right there. You're laying on my chest. I'm laying on your chest. You're on my back. Like the sensations continue until we fall asleep.
You go from dirty talk to pillow talk.
Absolutely. So yeah, as soon as you said it, like I said, I hadn't thought about that before, but as soon as you said it, I knew exactly what you meant. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so some of you guys might be what we call demisexuals. Do you know what that is?
No, I do not.
Eddie, are you ready? Go.
No, I do not.
Okay, but you seem like you're like, this might be me. This could be me.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. No. It's not like a sexual orientation.
It's a new pronoun.
It's not. No.
It's just always something new. It's just always something new.
No, this is any human. No, I know. No. Demisexual is just somebody who needs an emotional connection to have the real sexual one. Sure, you can come in a vessel of somebody and have and ejaculate. But demisexuals generally much prefer to have some kind of emotional connection first. It just means that it's not purely physical. That's all it means.
Right. Oh yeah, that's.
And
why
so
I
when you
drink
guys
that
said that there's a distinct difference, it suggests to me that you guys actually do have a difference between someone who you have a connection with and someone who you don't.
Yeah. And I.
Oh, so many. There's so many. But okay, I'm going to give you like the tops, right? So we all know what a heterosexual is.
We do.
Okay. We know what a homosexual is.
Yes.
We know what a bisexual is.
Yes.
We know what a pansexual is.
Check.
Check. Okay.
Familiar.
For those folks who don't know what a pansexual is, because there's some no's in the room, a pansexual is a person who is attracted to people regardless of their gender. Right?
How is it different from bisexual?
You want to trigger me?
Enlighten us.
I don't want to answer this.
I think.
Oh well. Okay. Can I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. So bisexual is you like men or women. And women, sorry. Yeah. So pansexual is you can like a man, a woman, a trans person, any gender that they say they are, human being, whatever they choose to label themselves is that. So you might have a boyfriend 1 year or a girlfriend. You might be with a transgender person at some point.
Yes.
Maybe.
So that's just everything on the table.
Yeah, you just free.
So
the whole smorgasbord, the whole buffet. You just out here just jumping into every pan.
What I like is what I like.
So yes, but I do want to make the very important distinction that bisexual people also identify in that way.
As pansexual?
As people who... Nope. Are you going to listen? Bisexual people, as a bisexual person, I just want to put this out there, right? Before we had the lexicon of pansexual, right? We had to have this... We had to come out of the closet as not straight.
Right.
So we came out as bisexual, meaning we're attracted to
man or woman.
Man or woman. More than
men
just
and women.
Well, more than just the opposite sex, right? That's what bi means.
Okay.
We are attracted to more than just the opposite sex.
But
we're not heteros.
Two.
Bi in scientific terms means more than one. Yes. Typically means two.
Okay.
Yes. However, because we are now coming into the lexicon where we're understanding that there are more than two genders, right? And that's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother episode.
We're gonna hold that in.
Yeah. There are more than two genders, right?
We'll be back with y'all.
Okay. But because there are more than two genders, people who love more than two genders are like, hey, I want to include all of those people in the way that I identify. So pansexual became a recent term that people are using to encompass all of the gender identities, right? Gotcha. However, I do want to just specifically say for bisexual people, because this is a big thing in our community, right? Bisexual people does not necessarily mean that you are only attracted to men or women. Right? It does not. And so do not make that like
whatever makes them happy. We live in how we live, and just live your life. We respect it all.
That's the state we're in anyway. Like we have all the pronouns, we have all this sexual labels as far as bisexual, pansexual, and I'm sure there's probably 10 others we don't even know.
LGBTQI ABCDEFG.
Right.
I'll tell you something. I will say a very controversial thing right now. I, as a sex educator, hate this idea of LGBTQIA. That's plus, right? This is the Rainbow Club.
It's just extra.
It's literally everybody who's just not straight and cisgendered. That's it. That's it. So anybody who's not a straight cisgender person is in the Rainbow Club. And the problem with the Rainbow Club is you have LGB, right? Mm-hmm. That's about who you love. Who you love. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual. All about who you love.
Okay.
Then you have TQIA, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual. This is about who you are. Who you are, not who you love.
Got you.
You understand?
Yes.
So who I am is a transgender or a queer person.
But they lump them all in together.
It's everybody all together. So now it's like, well, you're here, and it makes it seem like we are all like just making up what the fuck we want to be,
All
and
over
like
the
no,
place.
we're literally not even all. The asexuals don't even want to be here. They don't want to fuck nobody.
So this is the same thing that happens when you have a very dominant demographic who's made everyone who's not them feel like shit. Yes. Remember, black people, they've gone through all the names. How many names have black people? Colored, Negro. No, I mean the African American. There have been so many names because you only needed a drop to you're just not white, period. At this point, you're not white, so you're something other, and whatever you call yourself, mulatto, we don't care, you're just not us. So they decided to call themselves whatever they felt like, and that's an empowerment thing that they're going through. They're burning their bras. We're still burning our bras as black people, you know what I'm saying? And so it's just a natural function of the dominant culture has said we have been other, and now we're gonna embrace it and call ourselves something until we figure out what the fuck we are. And black people have been through it. The only people who haven't really been through it is women. We don't be like, well, you know, we women, but we also like men one. Like we're just like what? No, but we still don't have a lineage of different names that we've just gone through forever. We still identify as women.
Well, not really. So right now we're going through a lineage of names, right? So
I'm talking about people who consider themselves to be traditional women up until now. They haven't had decades and centuries of changing the name the way that black people have, given the dominant control of men have been putting them down. But I understand right now what's going on.
Right now.
Right, but no. But let's be clear that women like myself who don't identify as anything other than whatever you want to think as a traditional woman, I don't in my head think men have been oppressive. I need to call myself something other than woman in order to be the woman I am. I don't feel like an outsider that way, the way black people have or the way that you're talking about. But I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
Exactly. And so right now, what I'm talking about is that women, like when we talk about reproductive health care, right? We used to be women's health care, but people who have ovaries and vaginas and vulvas who identify as men are not, those aren't women. So it's not women's health care, right? It's reproductive health care. They have reproductive systems. So it's reproductive health care, right? So words matter, right? The lexicon is always changing.
It's a lot of words right now.
Lots of words, but we got to put language to what's happening, right? We have to be able to say what's happening, or else people are silenced. So,
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all having sex with each other. So,
exactly, man, exactly.
Whichever way that goes on the forks in the road.
Unless you're asexual, and even asexual people have sex
with themselves.
Safesex.com. Enjoy yourself and
Use a condom, wrap it
communicate
up.
with your partner.
All that.
Yeah.
Know your status. Get tested.
No, for sure. That's first and foremost.
Especially in DC, y'all. Dude. Anyway.
It's wild out here.
It's a jungle out here.
Nah, I think this conversation was important to have because number one, a lot of people that don't smoke or take shrooms in any form that they come in don't really know what that has to do with sex, how it can enhance it. It's been a question that we get a little bit here at the shop, just educating people about what it is, what it does, what it doesn't do, what to expect, what to not expect. So that's why I wanted to have you guys on to just kind of break that down and talk about it. It's a whole other universe for people to explore, right? Yeah. And they should, because it's not dangerous. Mm-hmm. These are all things that grow out of the ground. They're not, there's no extra chemicals in them. It's not like, when you say psychedelics, people automatically think like LSD or, something like that. And it's not that. LSD is actually made to mimic what mushrooms do, but it's man-made, and it's anything man-made is more dangerous than what nature did anyway.
Absolutely.
Right? So
if you overdose on cannabis, you fall asleep.
Right.
If you overdose on like cocaine, you die, right? And so the difference between what grows out of the ground and what man makes is very it's apparent right there.
Yeah, and it's important for people to know that, and lawmakers to know that, and we're jumping through all these hoops in different states to.
They know it.
You'd be surprised.
Exactly.
Some of them, a lot of them know it, but a lot of them really think that.
Yeah.
weed is the same as crack cocaine.
Yeah, because they
Like,
because of the condition.
They all schedule what? 1 drugs?
Yeah. Schedule
Yeah.
drugs.
They-
Yep. Well, it was criminalized
And-
in a very racial way too. So
Of course.
people
I
are
just
always
think it's
But even
ignorance.
mushrooms, same thing.
That's just ignorance.
Cannabis and
When they made that word, that was just the word ignorance.
Yeah. But that's why we're here. We got to educate the people, and we
And they
thank
know they stuff.
we
They
thank
know they
people like
stuff.
you guys who educate people on not just the cannabis or the psilocybin side of things, but just how that relates to other aspects of your life. And everybody wants to feel good. Sex is part of that. These, I don't even like call them drugs. These medicines
Yes.
are part of that.
Yeah.
And, people have a misunderstanding of what they really do and what they are. So thank you guys for telling people what that is here on the show and outside of here, around the world. Keep doing God's work, because these things God did make, because they come out the ground. So
Amen.
we appreciate you guys. And, is there anything else that you want to add on to what we've talked about so far?
No, just want to say thank you for inviting us.
And tell the people where we can find you at on your platform.
You can find Reba at Reba the Diva. I'm my first and last name, Ianessa Humbert. And you can find us together at gulp.group. And you can go to our website at gulpgroup.com.
Yeah. And we'll tag them on everything. Yes. Big round of applause for that, for sure. We appreciate you, ladies.
It was
And
a pleasure.
do all the sex therapists look as good as you guys?
Listen.
Well, we're having a big conference in March, so maybe you can come and find out.
Oh, there we go. March, we will be there.
if we
Smoking
get
Tingz and
that
Smoking
invite.
Tingz podcast will
It's
be
in
in the
DC.
building.
like
It's at
personal
Eaton
invite.
on March 10th and 11th.
We
It's gonna be
attend
dope.
things we
Have a lot of folks in
personally
there.
get invited to.
I got you. Personally, I'm personally inviting you guys.
We'll be
And like,
there.
you probably don't want to come to the conference because it's about like how to be a sexuality professional, but
Why
there
would I
will
not
be-
want to come to that?
Hey.
Oh, you mean like a professional? Is
like the actual professional, like
okay.
But your favorite porn star might be there. Anybody remember Cinnamon Love? You guys know who that is? Are y'all too young?
know
Look,
the
you know
name. I know the
Cinnamon.
name.
I'm sure I know who she
know the
is.
name.
When you Google her, you'll be like, oh yeah, that one. She's gonna be at the conference. We got a lot of good folks
Yeah,
coming.
you never
Okay.
know who
We're
you're going to
coming.
run into and what we can do.
Yeah, we're having a good after party though. I'll send you guys some
No,
real
we'll be
invites.
there
Yeah.
at Eden Rooftop.
Eaton, I got you. I'll tell you details.
Send us
All
the
right.
details.
I got you.
Well, no, we'd love to have you guys back on again, because there's a lot that we can, lot more that we can cover, and I think people after this conversation will probably have more questions. So yeah, we'll definitely be back on here and explore some more cannabis and psilocybin sex adventures.
Intergalactic.
Intergalactic planetary. Ow.
We're going to talk about that. Yeah.
So thank you, ladies. We're gonna continue the conversation and talk about what you guys are talking about. We appreciate you guys.
Every day a new day, move things, do things like my life a movie. Hey, every day new day, move things, do things like my life a movie. Hey, pull up in a big man range, straight to the stage, make a big man play. Trade 5 others, our big man J. That way, straight to the bank, that's the big man way. Cut the cake daily, 713, get guap gang, what the hell.